Hey, Kevin, it's so great to see you here at CES.
Nice to see you too.
What has been your biggest takeaway as you've looked around all the different vendors here?
Well, just seeing all these big industrial companies here, this is the first time we've been here in a long time in force. And it's because of the advent of these customers coming here. We used to think of it as like a consumer electronics show, like TVs. Here it is, agriculture companies, heavy equipment companies, car companies, they're all here. And that's why we're here.
Well, you know what? Let's go check it out.
Okay.
Great. So AI is basically becoming a co-engineer or co-pilot, as we like to call it when we think about how AI is going to help us. Can you maybe help articulate a little bit more about, again, why is that different and how do I trust it? You talk a lot about data and trust. So how do you trust something you can't see?
Well, yeah, there's a couple of things. First of all, you can't have good AI without good data. But they're mutually reinforcing. So if you're using AI when you're creating the data, just by the nature of that, you're going to have better data, which in turn is going to give you better AI. And so they're mutually reinforcing. But for us, we talk to our customers about how to build a really good data foundation, starting in engineering with things like requirements and CAD models and configurations and different kinds of, let's say attributes, things that can be fed to MES and ERP. And that, with that data foundation, you can ground your agents in that, and then those agents can be more trusted as you go through time to give you the right answer.
A follow-up question to that, when do you think data is good enough?
When it gives you the right answer. No, it's a really good point. You have to have some governance on your data so you know what data looks like, but you also have to test things. And so a lot of people do start with, Gen AI to see okay, how is the answers? Anything hallucinating?
Do you maybe have one bit of advice that you could give to someone about how to think differently about the processes? You talk about, we've been trying to solve these problems for a long time. And what we see often is people utilizing AI to solve the same broken problems as opposed to reimagining new problems. And so, or new ways to maybe go about solving them. Can you talk about how your devices to help people do that?
So I'd say, it's two dimensions. One is, like I said, in individual engineers being effective at their job that they need to go do, requirements engineer, product engineer, software engineer, et cetera. But we think the value is to be able to go across. So if you think about an engineering change impact analysis, let's imagine somebody in supply chain says, we want a new supplier.
Yep.
At that moment, they have to do an impact analysis, which means they need to know where everything is. Where are the parts? How many parts do we have in factories? That'll come from an ERP system. How many designs is this supplier being designed into? That comes from a PLM system. How many requirements are specifically written for this supplier? And that comes from a requirement system. Likewise, how many spare parts do we have? And so there's all of these questions, and some really sophisticated and complex industrial enterprises, that'll take a half of a year to do.
Right.
No,
We're already moving on to the next one within next year.
Exactly. And that's not an exaggeration.
Yes.
And now those kinds of things can be done coordinating between all these systems with AI, probably in a matter of days or weeks versus months and years.
Since we've been talking a lot about engineers, how do you talk about the difference between, it's an and to me. We talked about co-engineer, co-pilot. How is it though going to change the role of the engineer as you think about agentic AI?
It's a really good question. I think engineers move away from task to task, or if you really want to exaggerate, go back. They move from being a drafter to an orchestrator, or someone who builds CAD models to an orchestrator, where they're able to orchestrate agents to really accomplish what they need to accomplish in product development to bring the next product to market. And if you think about the complexity of the products that are here, engineers aren't just building mechanical products anymore. It's mechanical, it's electrical, it's electronics, it's hydraulics, it's of course software, and all of them running at a different pace. And just to coordinate the new product introduction of that is difficult. Never mind managing the configuration of that after it's in the customer's hand, especially with software. So it gives engineers this opportunity to not get mired in these small tasks, but to make sure that they're orchestrating the overall process. And frankly, at some point, people are going to start to really rethink things rather than orchestrating amongst the processes that we have. But That hasn't exactly started yet.
I mean, I think to me that's the tip of the spear. And again, it's an and. You're always going to have to look for operational efficiencies, how to do things better, faster, quicker. But the second that the spigot can turn on to create new pathways, new ways of doing things, different ways, that maybe solve for problems that didn't exist before is really, I think, where we're going to start to see the true momentum pick up speed.
I think you're right. And especially if you think if you can change the relationship in the supply chain, like the design supply chain.
100%. Thank you so much for your time today. You truly are at the forefront of technology, and I hope people learned a little bit more about what you did today and enjoy the rest of CES.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk.